Have you ever looked at a child who just couldn't sit still or focus and thought, they've got to have ADHD? What if I told you that's only part of the story? ADHD is one of the most misunderstood conditions out there. For years, I admittedly believed the myths until my own family's journey showed me the truth. ADHD isn't just about kids bouncing off the walls. It's about brain differences that affect everything from focus to social skills and more. If you're ready to challenge what you think you know about ADHD, join me as we uncover 10 crucial things you need to know. Whether you have a child with ADHD or just know someone who does, you won't want to miss this one. Welcome to Calm Connection Parenting. I'm your host, Jamie Kirkbride, mom of 7, parenting coach, professional counselor, and wrangler of big emotions. If you're raising a highly sensitive child with intense emotions or challenging behaviors and wondering if you'll make it through without losing your mind, you're not alone. Around here, we're all about real-life parenting, sprinkled with a little humor and a whole lot of patience. So grab your coffee, trust me, you'll need it, and join me as we explore tips, stories, and faith-based strategies to help you bring more calm and confidence into your chaotic days. Let's do this. Yes, let's start into this. The term ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is not a new one. In fact, it has been around for a long time. But during this time, there have been a number of myths and misperceptions about what it really is or even looks like. I have to honestly admit that I was one of those that failed to truly understand the implications upon a child and even the family. I presumed that it was probably behavior issues until we walked the journey with one of our own children. And it's amazing how walking a mile in those shoes has changed my perspective and judgment on others. I think we've probably all seen that little boy out in public that just can't keep his hands to himself, and he's abounding in energy and appears to show little regard to all the kind reminders that are being thrown his way, intended to help him stay on track and to maybe even keep from touching everything in his path like a tornado. Or perhaps we see the little girl who struggles with those moods and emotions. They're easily frustrated and they seem to experience a high number of meltdowns and frustrations in the course of a day. Chances are good that you've looked upon a child and figured that they were ADHD. In fact, maybe you've even made some hasty judgments along with that guess. I know I used to. ADHD is actually a neurological condition affecting attention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. It usually presents in one of 3 ways. Presentations include inattentive, hyperactive impulsive, or combined. Now that all sounds pretty technical unless we break it down. So let's get started with those 10 crucial things that you need to know. First of all, ADHD is not just a behavior or discipline issue. While there are children who may need better discipline or maybe just don't behave well, that is not a distinguishing factor of ADHD. A child can have strong discipline and consistent consequences, but still struggle to respond and behave appropriately. To assume that a child who has ADHD is poorly parented or undisciplined can be as faulty as presuming that a child with cavities has sat and feasted on candy. We know there may be children who consume too much candy and it impacts their oral health, but we also know there's a host of other reasons a child can have a cavity, including maybe poor formation of their teeth in infancy or brushing habits, maybe even fevers while infants, genetics, and many other factors. Likewise, it's important to not limit the scope of what we believe ADHD to be. The brain of a child with ADHD is truly wired differently. I like to call it uniquely wired. Testing and imaging reveals chemical and structural differences in these brains. An ADHD brain is impacted in cognitive functions, Sometimes we refer to those as executive functioning skills, such as working memory, processing speed, time management, task initiation, emotional control, and much more. So it's really not something that a child can just will themselves out of. It is a neurological condition, and it's important that we keep that in mind. Second, ADHD is not just about hyperactivity. While hyperactivity impulsivity might be a symptom or a trait, or as we talked about, a presentation for some children, it is not the only trait or struggle. Some children with ADHD actually have the inattentive type and may struggle with energy and getting going. In this situation, children may struggle more with being in their own little world or daydreaming. And some children experience the combined type with hyperactivity, impulsivity, and an inattentive both. In fact, it's more accurate to think of ADHD as a problem with modifying or controlling attention. So what are the symptoms when we say it's hyperactive impulsive? Well, there may be excessive or unnecessary fidgeting, squirming, spinning, moving around when not appropriate. They may be restless, running, climbing, constantly on the go, unable to quiet or engage in quiet activities, excessive talking, interrupting, struggling to wait or be patient for their turn, intruding on others, and sometimes butting into conversations. What does inattention symptoms look like? Well, that might be difficulty with the following: paying attention to details, making careless mistakes, concentrating on tasks while doing other things, listening to direct instructions and looking like they're paying attention to a conversation, following those directions, actually completing the tasks, organizing those tasks, the steps that they might need to take. Maybe it's sustaining attention to those larger or complicated tasks, managing time, losing things, being easily distracted, and forgetting about what needs done or even events that they're supposed to attend. And of course, combination, which is a combination of both. And it can actually change by the day or the setting, or sometimes even the stress level. Number 3, ADHD is diagnosed more in boys than girls, though many believe it is just as common, but possibly harder to recognize in girls. It might be more easily identified in boys, as our minds are quick to pick up on those more stereotypical, obvious, or maybe even loud characteristics that we think of being associated with ADHD. But actually, both boys and girls can be diagnosed and struggle with the effects in very different ways. Girls might actually appear less difficult than boys with behaviors, but still struggle with the emotional control, forgetfulness, indecisiveness, problems with social skills, or their tolerance for stress, maybe being scattered and excessive talking. I can't tell you the number of times when I'm working with parents and they say, well, I asked my child's doctor if maybe what we're dealing with is ADHD, but he asked me about her grades. And when I said she makes straight A's, he said it couldn't be ADHD. Let me tell you, that is a resounding not true. And sometimes that's the challenge of diagnosis. Professionals aren't always up to speed following the recent studies or the developments or even treatments. Part of the criteria for diagnosis is that symptoms must begin before age 12 and be present in at least 2 settings for 6 months or longer. So that might be home and school. It might be when you're out and about and at school. Those settings, it can't just be one place where they struggle. Number 4, studies reveal that up to 66% of those struggling with ADHD actually have a comorbid disorder or condition that occurs with the ADHD. That is true. In fact, that might include anxiety, OCD, ODD, DMDD, depression, autism, sensory processing disorder, maybe executive functioning disorder, slow processing speed, sleep issues, learning issues, and others. So it's especially important that we not overlook the specific issues of your child's ADHD and what they might be experiencing. And it's also important to note that these co-occurring symptoms or diagnoses can sometimes complicate the treatment or maybe even the management of ADHD and can be a little bit of a challenge. And likewise, it's important that we not assume that all children with ADHD will look, sound, or experience life the same. It's worth noting that emotional dysregulation is a feature increasingly recognized by clinicians, though it has not actually been a part of the diagnosing, or what we refer to as that diagnosing manual, the DSM-5 criteria. So as we can see, things kind of develop and change as we understand things more. And I feel like ADHD is one of those things that we are gaining a much greater understanding of, and why it's so important that we talk about it, that we get educated on it, and that we help, take down the stigma and raise awareness. Number 5, a child with ADHD matures slower than their peers. Many reports suggest that children who have ADHD tend to mature at a much slower pace. Some studies suggest that they may even mature 30% slower, or maybe up to 3 years behind their same age peers. Now, this is significant to keep in mind as we're dealing with this child. Expecting that their behavior is going to match that of the same age peer can be unrealistic for their specific emotional maturity. So as a result, it will be so important that you keep this in mind as you parent them. It will be key to be patient, to consistently evaluate your expectations of them. Is it right? Is it fair? Is it achievable? Is it on track for where they are? Or are there skills that maybe you're needing to train before they can accomplish what it is that you expect? It'll be important that you offer consistent positive feedback and that you communicate in a way that fits their accurate, not assumed level of maturity. Number 6, bullying is prevalent among the ADHD population. Because of their struggle with social skills, reading other people's cues, their problems with emotional dysregulation, all of these things can make friendships feel really difficult for the ADHD child. So it's important to understand that the lack of maturity, the impulsivity, and ADHD issues heavily impact their ability to connect and foster those friendships and operate in a comfortable way socially. Some studies suggest that children with ADHD are 4 times more likely to bully others, but 10 times more likely to be bullied. And so as we raise that awareness of bullying, we really need to cue into what piece of this is understanding and awareness for some of these social skills deficits or challenges, and how we can help bridge that gap. Social skills training can be an important piece to teaching them how to get along with others, as well as how to stand up for themselves if they're being mistreated. And I say this so often in the coaching program and the parents that I work with, role playing is a wonderful way to practice that communication and to problem solve that social setting and what it might take for them to ask for what they need, or to ask for a turn, or how to appropriately choose what you play or give others a turn. And these are all things that social skills training can be really important for. Next, we'll move to number 7. But first, I'd like to share this. Parenting a uniquely wired child can feel isolating, right? While other parents are talking about typical tantrums and bedtime battles, you're navigating emotional meltdowns, sensory overload, or challenging behaviors that many people just don't understand. It can be frustrating when the advice you hear just doesn't fit your child, and even harder when you feel like you're alone in the journey. But here's the truth. You don't have to settle for just surviving. In the Calm Connection Parent Coaching Program, I'll help you understand your child's unique wiring and give you faith-based practical strategies to not only manage the emotions and challenging behaviors, but actually help your whole family thrive. With video course, workbooks, a supportive community, and weekly coaching calls, you'll get personalized support every step of the way. If you're ready to stop feeling alone and start finding real solutions that work for you, your child, and your family, then visit calmconnectionparent.com to learn more. Together, let's move you from surviving to thriving. Let's do this. We've covered a few of these 10 crucial things that you need to know, but for a quick review, 1, ADHD is not just a behavior or discipline issue. 2, ADHD is not just about hyperactivity. 3, ADHD is diagnosed more in boys than girls, though many believe it is just as common, but possibly harder to recognize in girls. 4, studies reveal that up to 66% of those struggling with ADHD have a comorbid disorder or condition with the ADHD. Number 5, a child with ADHD matures slower than their peers. Number 6, bullying is prevalent among the ADHD population. And now we move into number 7, ADHD can be a strain on sibling relationships. Social skills can be a real challenge, like we talked about, for those with ADHD. And in the home, there's no exception. Children who struggle with ADHD can have great difficulty with their siblings, whether older or younger. Their impulsivity, possible aggression, or emotional challenges can really affect those sibling dynamics. And often, younger siblings are learning the very behaviors that are problematic from the child struggling with ADHD behaviors and creating a whole nother level of frustrations. So home can end up being a place where struggles are consistently triggered and backfiring. One recent article I read even addressed how this journey can almost be traumatizing for siblings along for the ride. And that's understandable. That's why it's so important that we address these issues to help the whole family, not just the child who struggles, but the child, the siblings, the parents, the whole family dynamic. And keeping this in mind, it's important that you as a parent find and put into place some useful supports. And for many people, even the education to help all of the members of your family work together to understand and to grow together. It might include parent education, counseling, family therapy, maybe a coaching program, social skills training. Oftentimes, these supports act as a team to encourage the family as they work to build stronger and healthier connections. Number 8, ADHD affects a whole family, not just a child. ADHD takes a toll on the whole family as they learn to navigate in healthy and effective ways. I thought it was interesting that the rates of divorce and depression are higher among parents with a child with ADHD. In fact, some studies indicate that as many as 23% of parents with an ADHD child divorce before the child's 8th birthday. That statistic is from the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology study of 2008. So it would make me wonder if that might not even be higher now. So it can be extremely difficult to find strategies that allow parents to focus both on the child's needs and marital relationship and that don't cause division between the parents. Additionally, it can be hard to keep things consistent with discipline and expectations for a child that struggles to learn from past situations or even prior consequences. And as many families that I work with experience, it can be really hard to get parents or even caregivers for single parent families, those who are helping you, on the same page with understanding even the basics about ADHD or how to manage the struggles and navigate the discipline or direction that needs to take place without triggering those emotional or behavioral meltdowns. And this is another area that parent education, the therapy, the counseling, coaching can offer, is the support and encouragement, as well as learning tips and strategies to help you be more effective and consistent, and more than anything, calm. Number 9, there are numerous ways to treat ADHD. Some options include medications, natural supplements, maybe occupational therapy, counseling. Some people utilize essential oils or biofeedback, and many more. Oftentimes, it's the combination of methods that can be utilized for the most effective treatment. But each family needs to make the best decision for their child and their situation. It can be a stressful thing for parents to finally decide which route to go, and yet it can be easily one of the things they feel so quickly judged by others. When you're making a decision to treat your child with his best interests in mind, just try to free yourself from any of that guilt. You are doing what you feel is best for him or her to function, learn, and mature. And I encourage you, pray that God will guide you in what your child needs, and he can answer those prayers. Children with ADHD, this is number 10, children with ADHD have many wonderful characteristics and traits, and I think it's so important that we don't leave this out. Children with ADHD tend to be creative, funny, intelligent, witty. They think outside the box, and they are usually really good multitaskers. They tend to be high energy and enjoy being involved in many things. They're energetic. They see the details, the sounds, the sights, and the smells that many others might miss. They can take in numerous details of a situation, while others just notice a few. Don't forget that despite the issues of ADHD, your child has a unique and special personality and needs to be recognized for those strengths as well. Please keep in mind that this child is so much more than the labels that we might use, whether it's for treatment or for IEP purposes. Those things may be important for paperwork, but they're not that important in understanding who our child is and what they need. It helps when we can be conscientious in celebrating those unique strengths and abilities and help our child embrace them so that they can use them for good. Most importantly, I want to remind you that this child is uniquely created with some of these very talents and abilities because God knew what they needed for his special plan for their life. Now, perhaps you're new to some of the true implications of ADHD and how it affects your child or your entire family. I would encourage you to take some time to learn and even research to find information that brings you better awareness. Whether you're taking this journey with your own child or simply aware of others who are, it can be so valuable to gain understanding. Studies suggest 7 to 10% of children are diagnosed with ADHD. So chances are really good that you will know someone walking this road, even if you aren't. And whether you have a child whose special needs are visible or maybe invisible, I want you to know that the job you are doing is important and valued. I want you to know you are not alone. People might not understand exactly what your path entails, but through genuine and authentic sharing, we can help others have a better understanding and start spreading the awareness and breaking down some of that stigma. Sometimes we run into that stigma in schools or in the community. Maybe it's even in your church. Wherever that is, it's part of our job and our responsibility when we have a child that we help others in their life understand them. And when we do that, it helps raise that awareness for not just them, but other children as well. May you be reminded today that you are the parent God chose for your child. And this is a responsibility that we all need to take seriously. Now, in our own power, it's likely that we will feel less than adequate. We don't have the tools that it takes. I don't have the patience that it takes. Maybe I don't even have the education that it takes, whatever you might be feeling. But with God's help and equipping you, you can do this. He will give you just what you need. Honestly, I can't imagine this journey without Him. So if you're feeling overwhelmed in the journey, please know I am here for you. If you'd like to connect with helpful resources, please feel free to visit calmconnectionparent.com/resource. I am willing and ready to be a part of your team. If you need someone to listen, to help share more information, maybe to give you some practical tips, some strategies, maybe you need a supportive group, I want you to know I am here for you. No parent walking this journey should feel alone. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Just remember, you've got this. And on the days you don't, well, we're in this together. Take a deep breath and keep building those heart-to-heart connections. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend who might need it too. And don't forget to connect with us at parentingwithpersonality.com or in our Parenting with Personality Facebook support group. We'd love to continue supporting you there. Until next time, keep calm and parent on.